Timothy Kirkhope, Conservative MEP for Yorkshire and the Humber. We've heard the judgment from the European Court of Justice on this air pollution case. It says that the UK should have met its obligations and should indeed still meet its obligations under European law. What's your reaction to this judgment?
Well, as a lawyer, I have to say as well that I'm not so sure it was a judgment as much as a set of comments. I haven't seen a sort of less determined and decisive judgment for a long time in any of these cases. So I think that its comments should be well taken in the sense that they are encouraging the British government to act as soon as possible to reach the targets that they had originally in their air quality plan, which was submitted to the Commission and received an enormous amount of support. And I think that's still the situation. We have to move forward as soon as we can to reduce air pollution, and I think that is really what the court is saying. It's also giving the control of these matters back to national courts, which I think is something also that I've been very pleased to hear.
Nonetheless, these targets were meant to have been met by 2010. The government, your own Conservative government, says that in places like Hull and also the Yorkshire and Humber region as a whole, those targets aren't going to be met till 2020, 10 years after they were meant to have been met in European law. Is this court case, is this judgment a wake-up call?
Well, I think it's just a reminder that we still haven't reached the targets that we would like to have reached by now. Although we did, I think, in common with most countries in Europe, make it quite clear that 2010 was over-ambitious. We asked for the 5 years, certainly to January next year. And it now looks as if we can't meet the target, certainly in relation to certain pollutants. Nitrogen oxide is the obvious one at that time. But we are required to do that as soon as possible, and the government certainly is moving along towards meeting that as soon as it can.
In the meanwhile, according to figures from health experts, thousands of people are dying prematurely from air pollution, not least in these places, in Hull, in Yorkshire. Does that not suggest that there is an urgency to act, that a statement like your region's not going to be up to scratch till 2020, a lot of people would see that as not good enough?
Well, I want to minimise the harm that is caused to the health of people in my region, Yorkshire and the Humber. I think if you make comparisons and you go back 10, 20, 30 years, then the amount of harm to people's health is much diminished. We all know that because of great big changes that have taken place from the Clean Air Act onwards, of course, which the Conservatives were responsible for. And I think we take a very, very responsible attitude now as well. But we have to make sure we have energy in the country. We know for a fact that pollution takes place from a number of sources, not all of which can be dealt with immediately or without considerable harm to the economy and to the livelihoods of the people that I represent. I want to try and get, if you like, the best of all worlds. I think that's what the government wants as well, and I think we certainly want to reduce pollution. We want to move there as soon as we can, but we have to do it in a way which is proportional and also sensible.
Given what you're saying, what kind of concrete steps could be taken by the government and by local authorities in Yorkshire to try and meet these targets, to try and cut these pollution levels?
Yes, well, I think one of the things, obviously, we have to look at the whole question of using energy economically, for a start, using a little less energy, because we do, apart from this particular judgment, we do now have quite a challenge on our hands about the future energy needs and the supply of energy within the UK. And, governments over many years now do not seem to have made final decisions quickly enough in order to minimise pollution as part of the production of energy. I think we need to make some very important decisions relating to nuclear energy. We need to make some very important decisions regarding the future of our current coal-fired power stations, and whether indeed we can move forward with new technology, which I have been supporting, which is carbon capture, which means that we can get the pollution out of the carbon-burning power stations and make sure that it does not have harmful effects on the population. And of course, there is the transport issue. we know for a fact that transport in its various forms does create quite a lot of pollution. I think we should be looking more at how we can actually minimize or rationalize transport in such a way that there is less pollution in the atmosphere.
A lot of these measures will cost money. Is the Conservative-led coalition government prepared to foot the bill for some of these measures to help out local councils that don't have the finances at the moment to put measures in place that might help with dealing with this issue?
Yes, I mean, some of the measures actually require more investment and more resources than others. I think the decision-making process is the most important thing, and I think the government is committed to reducing pollution. So that is a good start. The actual resources overall have got to be found, and whether they are paid for at the end of the day, these measures, by central government through central taxation, whether they are paid for as a result of assistance from the EU itself, which sets down the standards, whether or not they have to be ultimately paid for by the consumer, and I think a combination of all three is most likely, they have to nevertheless be proceeded with, and I would very much want that. And parts of my region which are particularly affected, you mentioned Hull, you mentioned parts of West Yorkshire too, which is equally not up to the full standards yet. I mean, I'm obviously very keen to make sure that priority is given to my region in achieving the standards that are necessary.